Welcome back to the Gun Collective podcast. My name is Jon Patton. I know it's been a minute, but I am excited to be back with you guys. We've got an amazing guest in a totally new industry that we've never talked to before, but I go way, way back with. His name is Levon, and we're going to get to that in a minute. First, we got to talk about sponsors. Of course, Radian. You guys know Radian. They make some incredible stuff. And they wanted me to tell you guys about the new optic protector called the Guardian. And I don't know if you've seen our ad on TGC News, but it will absolutely take a freaking beating. It's a mounting system. It has a backup sight built in. It's for an RMR and some other optics. Check that out at radianweapons.com. Also, go to blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Get yourself a bag of our Tenacity blend. You're not going to be disappointed. It's got a little boost of caffeine, a little bit extra to get your day going and be tenacious. Of course, it's in the name, right? blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. And if you use our code, I believe, which is also TGC, get like 10% off, something like that. I don't know. Check it out, blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Now, our guest, I told him I was going to try to pronounce his name on the show because it is a difficult name for some folks. It's Levon Derkrikorian.
Perfect.
Now, Levon and I have known each other for, since like 2006?
I was thinking it's almost 20 years.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Yeah, don't you do that.
18 to 20 years, man.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's kind of amazing. So I want to hear your recollection of how you and I met, because I think that'll be fun.
We've always been sort of parallel in our enthusiasm for certain things, but I think the thing that brought us together was cars, right? We have mutual friends, and back then in the pre-YouTube days, can you imagine if there was YouTube back when we were doing that kind of stuff?
No, we would all be in jail.
That's right. That's correct.
We would be in jail. So
also millionaires. One of the two.
Oh yeah, filthy rich.
That's correct.
But we started out. So at the time, I believe Levon had an Audi S4. I had a Subaru WRX STI when we met, and we used to go to some local car meets and hang out. Had some mutual friends, and ended up connecting and being buddies. And we separated for a while, and now Levon has this rad thing that I think you guys are going to really like called Knife Nuts Podcast. What the hell's that all about? I know. I want you to tell the audience.
It's funny. I'm not sure where to start with that, but
it's complicated.
It's not that it's complicated. It's kind of simple. Like, you always start out by carrying a pocket knife, just because you like it's a practical item to have in your pocket. And just like when you buy your first firearm or something, you don't know that you're going to end up buying or collecting a large amount of them, but you start to climb a mountain as such. It's just one of those things where I worked in the technology industry for a long time, and I liked going back to basics. A knife is like the simplest tool you can have.
Sure. It's very it's got like primitive ties, right?
Exactly. It is the oldest tool.
There you go.
And then, well, I guess if you count a rock, but that's but either way, it stemmed from there, and my love of functional art, which comes to like our love of cars and things like that. Firearms are the same thing for me.
Sure.
And I was in a situation where the knife industry is a lot more, it's more obscure than firearms, I would say.
What do you mean by obscure? Explain.
I think it's just less mainstream. I think the firearm industry has, especially in the past decade, grown so much.
Substantially,
substantially. And people that you would never think would be into them or interested in them come out of the woodwork like crazy now. It's been the same for knives, but much slower,
Okay.
I think. But everyone's,
I mean, you know better than I do, that's for sure.
And people didn't have an outlet for knives, being able to talk to certain people about the nuances of different things. And there were some podcasts around that were, in the early days but not one that really combined different parts of the industry. Like we have, Brian is a knife maker. When we started, he was in the industry for only about 4 years.
Okay.
We've been around since 2017, so that's how long the podcast has been running.
Okay,
And then we
cool.
have two enthusiasts, so it's just us talking about what we love, and people seem to latch onto that.
I mean, honestly, that's a wonderful thing, especially if you kind of create an environment that is comfortable and relatable. Like
Mm,
I know that you love to be that sort of connection between, much like I feel like we are the same person in different industries in a lot of
yeah,
ways. We
yeah.
both have this passion for really interesting stuff, but also love to build connection between the sort of everyman and the ultra technical, like that being that bridge is that's where I see you. Is that
Mhm.
accurate?
Yeah, you make it approachable, and you can because there's a lot of people who may be interested a little bit, like maybe they have like a buck 110 or something they got at Cabela's along with their, Glock 17. Uh
Right, right.
but and it's just having an unintimidating way to start learning about different stuff. And I think that's what you do very, very well
Well,
with the
thank
Gun
you.
Collective, because
Thank you. I didn't pay
that's
him
an
to say that.
it's an industry that is, I can't imagine how difficult it is to penetrate into. No pun intended. But
I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about penetration. I can't
just
even
you
get it out.
wait.
Yeah, yeah. No,
But you know what I mean. I
I
think
think
it's
the reason I've been able to do it is just because I've been around a while. I mean,
mm,
really, like
you're just a
building
friendly guy,
and
though.
I think you understand this, and I always go back to our car meet days of like trying to organize and rally people and do all that, where we kind of um, you start to become this like communicator in a different way. You
Hmm.
start to communicate for people instead of like just barking your own nonsense at people. You start to understand people, and I think that's where you shine, is because I know, like, I'm not a knife expert. I don't claim to be. I like knives, but like when I come and ask you a question, you're not talking down to me, and that's something that I love about what you create. So I want to try and ask you a few questions about knives in general,
Hmm.
and I also want to understand this injury that you've sustained, because I
Oh
think that'll
yeah.
be fun for like what the hell.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing that I personally don't understand is knife steel. Like the numbers, the classifications of all this bullshit. I don't think, like the knife in my pocket's a $30 knife.
Hmm.
And when I look at the ultra premium stuff, I see different materials and I see different
Sure.
knife steels and I see different actions and all these sorts of things. But I have a hard time piecing together where value is held. So can you explain, like, give me like a really short primer on like maybe like the top three knife steels right now that you think are super good?
I'm gonna make it simpler than that. Like, it's
Yeah,
just an
please.
idea.
Yeah,
It's
lay it
just an
on us.
idea. It does it really matter?
I mean,
No. Depends on the industry that you are in and how hard you use that knife is really what
okay.
it comes down. How important that tool is to you. And even those who use their knives very heavily, like say you're in bushcraft or something like that, you're not using some state of the art knife steel. You want something that you can beat up and then easily sharpen with what you have around you, right?
So what would that be? Like, give me, is that like a high carbon? I
Yeah,
don't.
like a high carbon steel. Like I can go
Okay.
list names and stuff for you, but it's just alphabet soup, you know.
Yeah,
Uh
it really is.
yeah,
It
it
really
really
is.
is. But when it comes down to the scientifically formulated steels, it's all about give and take, you know.
Okay.
And you can say this for different types of ammo, you know what I mean? Like if you know doing so much of X will yield this result, but if you put this much Y, you can balance that out
I
or
see what you're
something like
saying.
that.
Yeah.
So the idea with knife steel is to what do you value most in that steel? Do you want it to hold an edge for a very long time? Do you want it to be easy to sharpen? How sharp do you want that edge to get? How corrosion resistant do you need that knife to be? That's where all that comes down to, and the um, the elements that you use to um, create that steel often are what give you those different results, you know.
And when you say
People,
elements, you mean actual elements.
sure, like niobium, chromium, all this stuff that goes into how much carbon, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
So
it like is there like a certain steel that lends itself better for like an EDC blade as opposed
sure,
to
sure.
like
Yeah,
give me an example. I want to try
sure.
and understand.
I mean, you know, the first and still, I feel like there's only two steels that have ever been made specifically for knives.
Okay.
Number
That's
one was
interesting.
S30V, which I think started in the late 80s or early 90s. I could be wrong about that, but
Okay.
it's been
That's
around a
definitely what
while.
I've heard.
Yeah. S30V, I still love it. I think it's a great steel, great balanced steel. It's a little, but it's not a knife snob steel. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, yes it does.
Then the new is called Magna Cut.
Oh, for God's
I
sake.
ha- yeah,
We've just abandoned the naming structure.
oh yeah. Well, it had. Well, that's the whole thing now. Is like it's got to sound like, you know, Max Steel. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like you know, we have you know, what is the other one? Maximet is one of them. That was a one that was used for a while, but not you know, I liked it, but it was expensive. But the most common ones you'll see are M390. I think that's like um the standard, you know, or the
Okay.
American version, which whose name is escaping me at the
That's
moment.
all
It'll
right.
come to me.
So
But
is this like a difference of like very, very minimal characteristics between these various steels? Or is it like
yeah,
they're drastically different? You know,
well,
because
it's a
when I start to
scale. I
do
mean, you know, there's
go ahead.
there's a there's if you go and buy like a knife from Cabela's, like you probably what a lot of your average folks would carry. Like
Sure.
what's in your pocket? Can you show me? It's a $30 knife, but you can show me.
Guaranteed. Yeah. It is a Smith and Wesson
Oh
that
boy.
I did not pay for.
Oh,
And let's see if it has a steel listed on here anywhere. Let's
OS
say
10,
it
AUS 10.
says it's called the unwavered, and then there's like a skew on here, but it doesn't actually say what kind of blade
Yeah,
steel.
well,
Yeah, it's something
that's
like that.
yeah, that thing is you know,
So
I
I'm
mean,
very much
it's good that you're carrying a knife. I love that.
I've got
And you
one
got to
here
start
too.
somewhere.
I've
Yeah.
got a
And
different. This is an old
what's
HK.
that
What's
one?
this? This is an HK that says OS 8.
Yeah, I'll say. So that's an old school steel that probably was very popular in the 80s. It's
Sure.
very basic, easy to sharpen, but at the time it was state of the art. You know,
Well, like
these are steels that were made for other industries that were adapted to knives, you know.
from my perspective, like the reason I have cheap knives and you'll often
Yeah,
find me with a cheap knife on me is
sure.
because I don't carry the nice stuff. Like
Sure.
I don't use it. I just let it sit and I use, this I didn't pay for. This was, $20. And
Mhm. And that's totally
for
fine,
me, it's
you
like
know.
use it until it's absolutely trashed and then throw it away.
Right. Well, you know, the
Or bring it to
disposable
Levon
side
and
of
let him
things.
sharpen it.
Oh, you don't want me sharpening. Jake will do that for you. Um, but you know, it you all start somewhere, you know. Knives are a little weirder when it comes to like the low end versus the high end than it is with firearms, I think.
In what way?
The the quality level of that Smith and Wesson is, you know, not exact. It's fine. You can.
I
I have a
liked
lot
it.
of knives. I have. Let me tell you, you can get a great knife for $30. It's not the price; it's the
Sure.
product itself. You know.
So I'll tell you exactly why I like this knife, and then you can judge the hell out of me. Okay, so when you
Oh,
open it, it's shaped a little bit like a pirate cutlass. It's got
okay.
wood and metal and some fancy engraving, and that's it. Like that is the reason I like it. I don't care
Engraving.
otherwise. Well, yeah. It's all laser etching.
I
The
don't
other
use
thing,
that.
like for me, the thing that has to deal with on a daily basis is tape and cardboard. That's
Yeah,
it.
and that's 99% of what your average knife guy does with
Right,
his knives.
right.
You know, my whole joke is that you know, it's like people are like, "What do you do with all those knives?" I'm like, open other boxes that knives come in.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
like
for those that don't know, Levon's got this is all on mostly Instagram, right? Your collection.
I hang out mostly on Instagram, you know,
Okay,
but
so a ton of
I'm
stuff on
everywhere.
Instagram, and it's primarily at this point what I would refer to as bougie knives because he just works with the whole industry, and there's a lot of really interesting looking and really interesting designs. What's the cheapest knife that you own right now? Like, what's the cheapest one you have?
Like $5.
Yeah, but what is it? Like, do you know off the top of your head?
I mean, let me think.
Is it a like gas
So
station
one of
knife?
there well, that's a whole other ball game. Um, the the one thing that I have, I think I paid $10 for. I can't remember which one it was $5, but the one that was $10, and this was $10 in like 2017, 2018 money.
So
So who
you're a
knows what
big
that.
spender. Okay, I like it.
Yeah. But there's this brand that sort of represents the end all be all of garbage knives, and they're called MTech. You've probably seen them. That
Oh, yeah, I have seen that.
it is very much a gas station knife. It is, or what we call one step above that is a gun show knife.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I do not need any more multicolor knives.
Right.
Like, can we just not with the blades being
Oh, you can have
every
you can have multicolored knives that are awesome. It just depends on how it got there. I've seen some of your firearms. Anyway,
what do you you hear the judgment in his voice?
no judgment. I love them. I love them.
Oh shit. Uh so
I
you've
was going to
got the
say,
$10 knife.
so what they did was most of the time those the crappier knives use, and you can have nicer knives with this too, but an assisted action. Like it uses a little piece of torsion
That's
bar that's thrown in there like that and has no detent. It just uses that torsion bar to stay open or stay closed. Um MTech came out with a knife at one point that used a ball bearing pivot and an actual detent, and it didn't suck. I was like, wow, this is pretty great. And it also was like, oh my God, now the Chinese lower end knives are getting closer to making knives that are, in the $50 to $100 range.
sure.
So that was what I bought it out of pure curiosity, and I was impressed. I think I have my impact case of cheaper knives is actually over there. But
Have you ever done like a video on all that?
I mean, maybe a long
Maybe. What do
time
you
ago.
mean maybe?
Dude, it's all a blur anymore. It's every minute of every day is knives. So, I mean, have I gone into that case in a while? No, probably not within the past 2 years.
So this is your full-time gig right now. I don't think I ever asked you that. Are you doing
Um,
the knife nuts full time right
I
now?
usually have I usually have a day job. Right now, I don't.
Okay.
Uh, I left my other. Well, it was a whole thing. Um, I was in that technology business for so long, and I just
Yes, you
couldn't
were.
deal with it for 14 years. And I love them. They're great. And I still keep in contact and I love them, but I just could not deal with it anymore. But then the world ended in between. I had this, I was doing it full time with importing European folding knives that you couldn't get here.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
certain world events made sure that I couldn't do that anymore.
Okay.
Because one of the main companies that I worked with was in Russia.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
Sanctions
worked
and stuff.
right. And they were cool. Like those the people there, they understood how that was going to be. But that really threw a wrench in my whole full-time gig. Um but I still do it enough to be considered full-time. It's just maybe I'm not making as much as I want to be
Sure.
making, right?
So
So
I want people to understand what exactly it is that you're doing with this importation. These are like limited run guns, so you're importing them and then reselling them, or are these like
yeah,
designed for you? How's that work?
not necessarily a resale, more of like a distribution because they
I
don't
see. I
have
see.
they don't have an outlet here in the United States. What it has grown into for me is now I work directly with the designer who happens to be in the Ukraine. He's a good friend of mine, Ivan Braganets. He makes some really cool knife designs. So
Okay.
he built since those I couldn't get a lot of the brands that were coming out of Russia and that part of the world. I worked directly with the designer, and he started a brand. So now I do limited runs of the knives that he produces. So, which is fun.
And you're the like the sole US guy for that?
Yeah, you can't get them anywhere else.
That's kind of cool.
It's fun.
So,
I like it.
so give me an example of like I have no context of what something like that would cost. So these are ultra limited runs,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
like don't you said something you've got one coming up. What is that
mhm.
knife going to retail for if somebody wants to buy one?
I'm still working that out, but it's probably
Okay.
going to be in the 400 to $425 range.
That is a lot of cash for a lot of people for a knife. I've got some
Mhm.
fancier knives that are like up there.
Sure.
Why is it worth 400 north of $400? Why is it worth that much?
Machine time, steel, materials, design, logistics, and trying to produce things.
Okay.
It probably costs about maybe actual production of it maybe costs a little over half of that, which is
Oh
actually
wow.
that's pretty bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
When it comes
substantial.
down to, yeah, so you everything else that goes into it, getting it packaged up and shipped from the manufacturer, to me, and plus the run that I'm doing is only 50 knives, so it's only 50 of them.
Is that a
Um,
very small run for
that's
stuff
a
like that?
that's a very small run for
Okay.
anything, I
Okay.
would say. Um, but they're titanium, they're marble carbon fiber.
Wait, what
These
the
are the
hell is
M390.
marble carbon fiber? What the hell
You've
is
s-
that?
you In most industries they call it. It really only caught on in some of the the newer stuff in pop culture. It's called forged carbon.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
knew it.
yeah. Where it's like
Yeah.
pressed and whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And
That's cool
it's
looking. Yeah.
oh, it's dude, it looks sick. Yeah, I'll show you some pictures after this before they get
Sure,
here.
sure, sure.
Um, but yeah, if you see it, it's an intricate thing. It has an interlock that's designed by a Brazilian designer. It's got its own lock. When I say lock, it's the thing that holds the knife open. Does that make sense?
Thank you for that clarification.
Just you never know.
There's a
Um,
bicycle lock just in the knife.
right? Yeah, it's just the padlock. You have to know the combination.
Yeah. There's a master
Um,
lock that comes with it.
there's a lot of things that go into what makes a knife well made. How much
Okay.
milling is there internally within in the frame? How much weight reduction is it going
So,
to
like,
go through?
you're saying, like, they're cut on a CNC
CNC,
mill.
CNC.
So CNC mill, and then once the general shape is cut, you're talking about looking at maybe a potential scale on the outside, raw
A
finish.
scale,
What?
yeah,
Sure, go ahead.
sure, yeah. Like the scale is also milled. It's a solid piece of carbon. The ones that I brought
The
in the standard
marbled
production,
carbon.
the ones that I brought in standard production about a year and a half ago were all titanium, and those were it was titanium with M390 for the steel. This will have
Okay.
purple accents, so you'll appreciate that. So
Yes.
anodized purple titanium backspacer clip and pivot ring. So the pivot obviously is where the actual blade pivots on
Huh.
the frame. Mm. I don't. This is a tough thing to
No,
explain.
I think it's kind of cool. People, I don't know how much our audience is into
Right?
the bougie knives, but to me, the thing that's more interesting is the people behind it, the thought process behind it.
Sure.
I mean, that's what
Yeah. A lot.
this podcast is supposed to be, is trying to break down the people rather than like talk about the technical specs. At least that's what
Exactly.
I intend.
Yeah, and that's really where that is a wonderful point, because that's really what it's all about. It's not the what, it's the who.
Sure.
The what is great, but it's the who and how. Because there's knives that are produced by hand. That's a whole other, part of the market. There's different categories of knives, and there are people that are proficient in all of these different things. And then you have which are all incredibly, commendable and amazing in their own rights. But then you have a large audience that likes to compete about which one is best and why, which doesn't make any sense to me,
No, it doesn't. It makes no sense.
right?
The gun industry loves that crap too. We love
Right.
slapping the word best. This is the most innovative. This is the best thing ever. And is it the same in the knife industry?
Oh, 100%. 100%. There's loyalists for brands, like some of the brands that you guys are probably familiar with or think highly of, or like I'd never spend that much on a knife. You know, a
Sure.
Benchmade, Spyderco, things like that. They're like the people still love them because they are, you know, industry leaders who have progressed the industry. You know,
Mhm.
but do they make some of the best knives? No. You know, there's always something better out there. There's a lot more, I think, smaller. Producing a firearm has a lot more red tape than producing a knife. You
Yeah,
know,
like excise taxes.
right? So,
Like the gun
although
companies
who
are
knows?
charged.
Yeah,
They're charged a tax every time they produce a gun. They
sure.
have to pay a certain tax for it.
Hmm.
If knife makers had to do that, the cost of knives would quadruple overnight.
Yeah, right.
Like
So, I
it would
mean,
be asinine.
although it's moving in that direction.
Oh boy, yay!
Yeah. So
So,
everything, you know,
so we've got a sort of big. Honestly, it's not dissimilar from what we know with guns.
no,
The scale is slightly different, but it sounds like there are the big companies, and then you've got this sort of cottage industry of smaller, more innovative guys
you have,
producing the
yeah, you
really
have
interesting stuff.
makers, you have designers, you have, and maybe a designer works with a production company and says,
Okay.
"Here, I have this design. Let's produce it." I can't think of an example of that, but what was that Daniel Defense gun? Is it the H9 that wasn't
The
originally theirs?
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
H9,
right. I think I remember.
sitting right over here.
I'm pretty much a gun casual, so
Okay.
you know I have my firearms. I love them. I have some cool ones, but nothing like what you've
What's the
got.
coolest one you own?
Oh, dude, don't put me under.
Yes, I'm putting
So
you under scrutiny right now. Let's go.
for the amount of time that I spend in a range, I just want something that's fun to go
Sure.
and shoot as accurate as possible. So I have a CZ Shadow 2 that
Great gun.
I use. Yeah, love that gun. That Dan Wesson has got. I've got my eye on that Dan Wesson now.
You can
The
kind
one
of
you were.
see it right
Yeah, I'm
there.
looking at it.
Yeah.
Yep. How is that? Do you like it?
I love it. I wish it
Really?
had an optic cut and
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird omission.
so I'll tell you what happened with that gun. I think it was a big mistake on their part. So that gun was originally released in like 2017 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was before COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
and they were, they released it and it was good to go. And at that time, the need for an optic cut on every gun was not a thing. It was
Right.
like more scattered.
Because of that
And
competitive shooting boom, like people were really before that
I
was
I mean,
really
it's
popular, you
competitive,
think?
it's defensive, it's just this weird thing that happened sort of overnight in the gun industry. Everybody was just like, "This is what we're all doing now."
Right.
I think everybody realized how good it actually is, and so they started production of like the first run of guns, and then COVID hit, and they hit pause on the gun.
Mm.
And rather than like redesigning and bringing it up to the future, they restarted production with the same
With the
design from
original
the
mold. Yeah, yeah.
right, same thing from
Same file.
before. Yeah, and it's still an excellent gun. Like, it is
Mhm.
effing excellent.
Mm.
However, it needs an optic cut.
It does. I mean, it doesn't. It's not really a big deal for me, but I assume with that sort of firearm in today's world, it should have like some sort
Well,
of
it's 2
optic.
grand. You know what I mean? Like, it's
There's
$2,000
that.
gun.
Right. Um, my thing with it, maybe if I ask you a question, would it be kind of redundant to have that for someone who has a smaller collection of firearms? I always say I have a smaller collection, but then I realize I have, you know,
A bunch.
I mean, not a lot compared to my knife collection, which I don't even want to talk about.
Right.
But
That's like
but
the opposite of how I feel about,
it's
my
like
knives,
10.
yeah.
You know, I have 10.
Sure, that's
So that's
solid. That's solid
like
collection.
for someone who's not like a huge gun guy, I have 10 of them.
Sure.
But my thing is with the guns, I don't get as much use out of them. That's why I
Okay.
don't enjoy them as much. With the knives, I can appreciate them every day. I know you do too. You do that with
Sure.
your firearms in different ways, and this is just how I process it.
Sure.
Um, yeah, but what was I about to say?
You were talking about you what I'm trying to pigeonhole you into
Oh
picking your coolest
yeah.
gun.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you know what my favorite gun is too, and this is going to get a lot of flack from people.
Oh, I can't
Is
wait.
I have a Kimber.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Okay.
dude.
Which one?
Okay. It's a what
Like a
is it?
1911?
It's a 1911.
Okay.
It has a plastic backstrap. I know.
I mean, I don't
Um,
care about that personally, but
that doesn't bother me at all. But what is it? Why can't I get? You know when you get into a mode and you can't recall anything, Either way, it's one of the shorter barreled, but it's still like the full sized frame.
Okay, so
the
short
barrel is
barrel, long
shorter.
frame kind of deal.
Yeah. What is it called? Raptor 2. Raptor 2.
Okay.
Timber Raptor 2. Why do I have all the sequel guns? Why do I have the sequels?
I don't know. Maybe that's just how you are. Godfather 2, Raptor 2. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. But what's cool about that? What's cool about that one? I think I only paid like $800 for it. It was
okay.
This was several years ago, right? And Brian, knife maker Brian, who's a big gun guy, by the way. You got to get him on here.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on. We gotta make that happen.
He machined titanium grips for that 1911, and I have
Is there a picture of this on your Instagram?
I have a matching knife. Yeah, I don't have my phone, but can we pull up that?
No, it'll take too long, and
I'll send it to you. You can add it in post.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Go to Levon's Instagram.
I'll find it. If you DM me on Instagram, I'll find that photo for you. Yeah, I'm just Knife Nuts Podcast on there. You just type it out, all one word, you'll find me.
It'll be very easy.
Yeah.
So you've got an interesting collection of guns. You've got a ridiculous collection of knives. Do you have any idea how many knives you actually possess right now?
Just throw a number out there, and I'll
so like 3,000. I'm kidding. I know there's probably not that many.
It's lower than that. Yeah, but it's hundreds.
Okay. That's substantial.
Yeah, it's hundreds. And it's just you acquire them. Like I'll go to my mailbox and there's a knife there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's certainly a lot easier to grab a knife. Like somebody could just send you one and it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Can you imagine if the gun world was like that? It'd be amazing. It'd be freaking amazing.
For some people, it would be very amazing.
I have this thing nowadays. It's just that people call for the big reset, with society and all that. I say, let's just arm the homeless and see what the hell happens. For those that aren't watching the video, he just made one of those "oh boy" kind of faces.
Oh my gosh! You know what's interesting? I think that I've had people who are, I work for a very progressive company, right?
Yes,
to say the least. You would be surprised how many of those people that I've worked with over the years from all different walks of life are all about, hey, I want to know more about firearms. I need to, I want to protect my family. I'm really interested in going to the range and learning about stuff. And there are people that you would never expect to be into it. We talked about you and I being approachable avatars for our respective industries. And I got a lot of people into knives because of that sort of thing. And then they realize that things aren't as scary as they're things. They're things that you can enjoy. It's not sure, there are serious things that these are used for, or you could take it as far as you need to go for your own protection. But it's just a cool hobby and a cool, very rewarding hobby, and just beautifully made products within them.
Speaking of beautifully made products, our show sponsor Radian makes some really incredible stuff. That's a dynamite segue. Thank you very much. I think you guys really need to take a look at the Guardian Optic Protector. It is one of the more interesting products that I've seen in a while. They do it for Glock, they do it for Smith & Wesson and a few other brands. They're expanding on that. And the idea is that you've got a very expensive optic, protect it. You put a case.
But if you have that Dan Wesson, it won't do you any good.
Right, because there's no optic cut on that. It sucks for Dan Wesson. But you got to look at it, radianweapons.com. Also, go buy some coffee. And if you don't like coffee, they've got hot cocoa and tea over at blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. That hot cocoa, I'm telling you, game changer. It is so good. It's, I believe their brand is called Cocoa Sips. It's kind of a goofy brand name, but it's good stuff. And the tea, I drink all the time. I literally drink all the freaking time. English breakfast is my jam.
Oh, I love an English breakfast. A little honey.
Yes, a
Little
little
lemon.
something. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
But I want all that in my mouth.
all of it,
Yeah. What's
including
the
the
cost?
optic protector.
Give me the optic protector. Let's put them on my eyes.
That would be honestly, if you could pull that off somehow, I will put that all over the internet.
I'm coming for
Thank
you,
you.
Tim Wesson.
I appreciate you guys listening to the sponsor spots and supporting them. It actually does help. So, Levon, you told me that you have an injury that you
Oh
are
boy.
currently dealing with. What the hell happened?
I got bit by a spider, dude. And this is someone that is, I'm not afraid to admit it, I'm hugely arachnophobic. There's
Are
very
you
little
really?
things. Yeah, there's very little things in this world that scare me, at least from a wildlife perspective, not like, nothing introspective or anything like that. Just
Sure,
talking
sure.
about, mice, rats, that kind of stuff. I'll pick it up and give it a kiss on the lips. I don't care.
Oh boy.
But maybe not that far, but you know what I mean. Snakes don't bother me at all, that kind of thing. But spiders, even other bugs don't bother me.
That's
Spiders,
interesting.
and
What is
it's
it
to a
about
point where
spiders? Too many legs?
I don't know. Everything's got too many legs, in my opinion.
It-
How many do
cut
you
people's
really
legs
need?
off.
How
Too
many do
many
you
of them.
really need? Too many legs.
Do you remember Mitch Hedberg's joke about spaghetti?
No.
He said, he said, I don't like spaghetti. There's too many of them. There you go.
That's pretty much how that works. Yeah. But lifelong arachnophobe. I
Okay.
do find them fascinating though. So I'm the person that's scared of them, but likes to research the living heck out of them. I watch a lot of people who keep spiders and all this other stuff. But
That's interesting.
like I can look at them. I just don't want them anywhere near me. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes.
Anyway, so I was bitten by what I believe was the yellow sac spider.
Okay.
And this is not some rare ultra venomous spider. And it's just, those little beige guys that you see sometimes on your truck in like they go in through your you see them run across your dashboard in the fall because they went into your HVAC system to keep warm. You know what I'm
Right.
talking about, right?
Oh
Or
yeah. Yeah.
in the corner of your wall. That's a yellow sac. Very
Oh.
common little house spider. Yeah, but has a uh pretty gnarly bite if they put enough venom in it. So the reason I
Okay.
knew it was actually a spider bite was that there were two other little non-venom injected bites on the
Oh.
it's on my upper thigh, by the way. That's why it looks like I'm touching my butt. But um but the one where he got me, oh boy. And it looks very similar to like what a viral black recluse bite would look like, like the
Seriously?
pictures that you see. Yeah, man. It's got the necrotic flesh, all that stuff.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, that's
It's not
gnarly,
that
man.
bad where it's like deep and I don't have to get a skin graft or anything,
Okay.
but um that I'm thankfully that window seems to have passed, which is good.
So
But
how do you treat that? Like, what do you do about that?
mm. So the ability I have now to talk to you like this without being you can see I've got like a little bit of a sweat going on, but that's because I'm on I'm on an antibiotic. I'm taking ibuprofen and Tylenol like a crazy person.
So you're just
Just
popping pills to try and fight this.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm also cleaning it nonstop, peroxide.
Ugh.
And I have to dress it a few times a day. And if this happens to you, you should probably just go to the hospital.
I I don't know why, but I was anticipating you should probably just cut your leg off.
Cut your leg off. No, no, you have too many of them anyway.
There's too many of them.
Yeah, but you should go to the hospital because any type of skin infection is can spread very, very fast.
Dude, that's
Um,
wild. Do you
yeah,
know when it happened?
I want to say because I was
Like, were
getting
you
my
asleep or something?
well, no, I have Pat's old beater F-150.
I did not know that. That's pretty
Yes.
funny.
So our mutual friend had
For
yeah.
So Pat is the guy doing all of the installs on my van for those that are following along with that project.
Mm. Oh yeah. We'll
Yeah, yeah.
talk about
He's a
that later.
yeah.
So I just have his old beater F-150 that I put, new suspension and 315 series KO2s on.
Some big
So
old
it's like
chonker
a
tire.
rusty old truck with like, some really nice stuff on it.
That's the
Anyway,
way.
I don't drive that often, but it parks under a tree. I live in a sort of very secluded area of Delco. So
I'm just glad you
yeah.
don't have that Delco accent.
No, it's weird. It comes out sometimes though.
Does it?
Yeah.
Like, ew, go to
Yeah,
Delco,
oh,
get a
dude.
cheesecake, a hoagie.
I'll say Wooder sometimes.
Do you
You know?
really?
Oh yeah, man.
So for those that don't know, Delaware County is right outside of South Philly, and there's a very particular accent that comes very heavily out of Delaware County, aka Delco.
There's a movie coming out called Delco.
Is Bradley Cooper going to be in it? Because like that's his hood, right?
I don't know if he's going to be in it, but the only reason I know is because they were shooting it up my street. So I was like, well, I guess this is really I live in Drexel Hill area.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just
for those locals, go creep on Levon if you can find him.
It's a pretty broad
look for the clapped out 150.
Yeah. That'll narrow it down.
So you've got this gnarly spider bite, and
I think it got me while I was in the truck, while I was working on the truck, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
That's where I went into like the well, you and me both.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad combo. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty awful. I'm hopeful that it gets better.
Thank you. Yeah, it's already better over the past 2 days. Like between yesterday and today, it's much better.
That's good.
Like
so
if it was over the weekend or something, the pain was absolutely, dude, unbearable. It was really bad.
So is it like the kind of pain that just like shuts your body down?
Yes.
That's crazy, man. That's something
I'm lucky that I fought off the infection and because I never got like a really bad fever or anything like that. That would be bad. Okay. That's when you go into the hospital.
Right.
And maybe hopefully don't lose one of your legs, because I don't in fact think that I have too many. I want to keep the 2 that I
have. Despite earlier conversation.
Yes, despite the earlier comment. But yeah, I kept telling myself, like, don't get bit by a spider. It doesn't give you superpowers. It doesn't, despite popular belief.
You just got to keep waiting. It's a different spider, probably.
Oh yeah, I'll let you know if I'm able to. Next time. Yeah, I'm also. Oh wait, the other thing I'm afraid of is heights. So this whole superpower set does not work for me.
So even if you had them, you wouldn't want them?
I wouldn't want to swing from buildings.
What superpower would you want? Like invisibility, you obviously not flight. Speed, perhaps?
Oh, look, there's the fat guy that can run really fast.
The irony is amazing.
Yeah, there's too much irony already with the arachnophobia and the spider bite from hell. Yeah, so I don't need that. But I don't know. Teleportation.
Oh, that'd be good.
My favorite X-Men was always Nightcrawler.
He's good, dude. And how about the OG Nightcrawler that I can't remember the actor's name, but it was like the first big X-Men movie, and the guy's like in the church teleporting. Might have been the sequel that they brought him in. Now that I think of it,
it was X-Men 2.
Yeah. And what's really weird is like that was probably made 25 years ago now. If you think about it, like,
I think it probably was 25. And the other segue, the guy who one of the actors from that show, from those movies, is a big knife collector.
Is he? Which one?
I'll leave that as a surprise. But he's going to be the next guest on my show.
You're kidding me. No. So you're going to have a legit X-Man.
Yeah. Well, no, he's still a man.
Well, yes. So where we're not wrapping up the show, but I want people to know where to listen, download, etc. Where to
knifenutspodcast.com. You can find, That's stream on everything. We don't have a big YouTube presence because we only do like the video stuff from time to time.
It's an audio only.
Well, we do have video now, so we can have the new recent episodes will be in video on YouTube. But most of our audience if you're a knife maker or someone in that industry, you're working in a a shop or something like that, and they put that on in the background, or they're traveling from place to place. So our audience loves just having the audio stuff, which for the most part I think is most popular with
I
our.
think we need to do, speaking of video stuff, I think you and I need to do a video on my collection. I'm just going to pull out all of them and I'm going to have you like grade them or something.
Oh
And
yeah,
they're going
that
to
would
be
be fun.
ridiculous.
I
Because
I mean
I've got some
I
fancy
can,
stuff.
I can be laughably snobby,
That's, yeah, I
sometimes,
know. That would make it more entertaining for the audience.
absolutely. And
Just have you be
if
super
we
judgmental.
do it in person, I'll bring some fun, reasonably priced knives too.
Yeah, we absolutely will do that. And that you
You
can't
know what
do
I mean?
that sort of thing you have to do in person.
Mm,
And since, we've gone way, way, way back, it's not hard to get together. We're
no,
just bad about it, really.
we really.
So,
It's so silly, isn't it? I think it's just because
yeah.
we're adults.
It's funny. I drive by Jake's house all the time. Like my brother lives
Mm,
up the street from Jake. Like literally you can see Jake's house from my brother's house. It's kind
that's
of amazing.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
we should
yeah,
just.
yeah. Like
I'm
it's
still
a small
40
world.
minutes out. You're 40 minutes out in the other direction.
Right.
Then, so Jake's house is literally probably the midpoint for us.
Oh no, no, no. I live like 10 minutes from Jake.
Oh, so then you're literally. I thought you said your brother was.
Yeah, he's closer, like literally like across the field kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
funny. Yeah. So yeah, we'll just all meet up there or something.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
I'll bring the giant banana van and we'll hang out.
I want to see that thing. No more MDX, huh?
No, I had two and I love that car, but it wasn't practical for me anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like I couldn't fit enough firearms to go to the range in the back.
So incognito though, man.
Yeah, it
That
was. It was
MDX,
soccer mom.
that was like, yeah, the soccer mom vehicle. Like no one would ever suspect. Oh, big time gun guy in there.
Yeah, I had, so for those listening, I had a 2017 MDX that was like chocolate brown, like a deep chocolate brown with brown interior, and it
Chocolate.
ripped. Yes, it ripped. It was such a fun car to drive. The super handling all-wheel drive from Acura is really legitimately fun.
Oh yeah, it is.
And
It's really good. Really good.
I had that for a while, and that's what I traded in on the Sprinter van that I'm driving now, which is 24 feet long and 11 feet tall. It's very
So much
different.
more practical. So practical.
Yeah, it's very practical to not
So
be able to fit
practical.
under bridges.
Is that do you daily that thing?
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't go anywhere. Like my whole business is here, so I don't have
Right.
to leave. I don't have to go anywhere.
And Jake's house is around the corner, so it doesn't really make any difference for
Oh
our
yeah, yeah, yeah.
meetings.
Like. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that like I'll travel a bunch for like a month and then I'm home for like 3. You know what
Did
I
your
mean? Like,
camera just realize that you gave a thumbs up and did a little bubble on your head that
did
looked
it
like
do
a big.
that? Hold on.
Yeah, it totally did.
That was
A
kind of cool.
little thought bubble come up over your head that with a thumbs up. Ah, there it is.
You know what's amazing is the camera that I'm using right now is not an Apple camera, but that is an Apple thing. That's like it's treating it like a webcam. That's fascinating.
I'm trying to think what other gestures can I do?
I think if you do a thumbs down, it'll do something. Yeah, there you go.
It doesn't recognize it on me.
I don't know. Maybe it's like mad at you.
I don't know. I'm on an Apple camera as well.
I don't know. I mean, this is a Sony camera. That's what I'm saying. Like, I have a Sony
Oh,
via USB-C plugged into this.
you would think it shouldn't
Fascinating.
be an Apple thing. It should be a StreamYard thing.
Yeah, but that's like what I'm seeing. That thing that you're seeing, that's Apple because it does it on FaceTime too.
Weird. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, yeah. So
yeah,
how about
yeah,
guns
yeah.
and knives?
All right. So guns and knives. I want to try and relay this. I want to try and understand. So we've got this massive spectrum of knives. Are there? So when a lot of people go, what's the like? I need my first gun, my first carry gun. What do I get? And a lot of people will say Glock 19 is like their basic answer because it's a very like generic answer.
Mhm.
I usually say go rent a bunch and try stuff, but that's beside the point. Is there like a certain like couple knives that you immediately go, okay, go grab one of these. This is a solid bet that'll let you know if you're into knives or not. Like something that's good in the pocket all the time. Like, do you have a go-to?
There used to be an easy answer to this question, but I don't think they're very relevant anymore, and they're big knife brand knives. Like for me, my gateway knife, and I'm sure there's a lot of gun guys who have this still and think it's like the coolest thing ever, and it is a cool knife. The mini Griptilian or the Griptilian
Okay.
are very popular
And
Benchmade
that's a
products.
Benchmade, right?
Yeah, I don't really recommend too many Benchmades these days. There's some that are decent. A lot of people are getting into knives because they bought a Benchmade Bug Out, which is their
Okay.
lightweight. I think it's got a plastic scale type situation, but they all have that axis lock. So which is an easy lock for new knife people to get into
Okay.
because it's ambidextrous. It's easy to actuate. You can open and close it without putting your hands in the path of the edge of the blade, that kind of thing. And you can use it one-handed very easily, open and close it
That's nice.
one-handed
Yeah.
very easily,
Yeah.
right? A lot of knives are like that, but this was a great way for people to understand, and it was cool because you could like play with it too. You know what I mean? It was like you could
Sure.
flick it
Sure.
open and close it.
It's like a fidget
But
toy.
but the thing that happened, and what I'm talking about a lot in the industry right now, is that the patent on the axis lock expired a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half, 2 years
Oh,
ago. So now every company has an axis lock or axis like lock in their catalog.
that's
So
interesting.
it's very interesting. So now is a little bit boring for me. Absolutely, is a little bit. Um, I feel like it's you know what's the word, suffocating some innovation
Mm.
for a
Well,
lot of companies.
we've seen that in the gun industry with the sort of rollout of everybody doing a Glock clone.
Mm,
Since the Glock Gen 3 patents went out or whatever, similar situation, and then everybody started making stuff that took Glock mags and was basically a
exactly.
clone of
Yeah.
the Glock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
very,
that.
very similar.
It is.
So
But
so that's gone now because the Axis lock is just everywhere.
mhm.
Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
that's pretty much true. I also think a lot of button lock, which is literally what it sounds like. You can open the knife and then close it by pushing a button, like a
Okay.
plunge lock. Those are
Sure.
really great. And the thing is, when it comes to individual knives, you're spoiled for choice right now. And
No
as long
kidding.
as you can get over the fact that things are produced overseas, I mean, you're really not going to get too much that's produced in America at a lower cost. At least one that'll be good.
Right.
Everything. I'm going to say the dirty c word, um, but it's China.
Mm,
China started producing amazing knives, and they're working with American designers. They're working with American companies. They always have been. Let's put it that way. But there are companies that you see budget offerings from some of these folks that are big companies. They're not like Amazon brands, although there are some good Amazon knives that I've had that have
that's kind
really
of
impressed me.
amazing.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying these are not fly by night companies. These are companies that are ran by an individual that I know. Like each one of them, they're good people. They love knives and produce things to a very, very high standard at a very um, affordable cost, all the way up to, like, I'd say that kind of company makes knives in the um, $30 to $40 range, all the way up to like the $900 range. Like companies like We Knives, Riot,
Sure.
Reich Knives, all those are China-based companies. We call them, they're just OEMs, really. I think a lot of the knives that they produce are to show off their manufacturing prowess.
Mm, I
We
see.
Knives has that sub brand called Civivi.
I actually
You
just
know,
saw them at Great American Outdoor Show yesterday.
oh yeah, they're pushing like crazy, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they specialize in more affordable side of the spectrum.
Okay.
Riot, who I think produces the best production knife ever, like their manufacturing prowess is really, really high for a large
Okay.
quantity. They have a new budget line coming with some button locks. They were
Hmm.
shown at SHOT Show. Those will be very, very cool. And I mean, even Kershaw and CRKT, these are brands that probably a lot of you guys have heard of.
Yeah.
They've really tried. It's been pushing them to step up their overseas produced offerings as well.
I
So
mean, for a long time, I carried a Kershaw that was like a Ken Onion design. I can't remember what it's called, but
good old Ken.
yeah, I had a few of those.
He's a funny dude. Ken
Is
Onion.
he? I don't need. I thought he was
Yeah,
dead, to
character.
be honest with you.
No, almost.
He's getting there. He's getting there. Well, you gotta watch out for that guy.
But
So,
so there's a lot of new stuff from those companies that are very, very good. I think you should, if there's if you have listened to the show and there's a knife you're looking at, you can always DM me and I'll tell you what I think of it. But it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people are just going to buy what it looks like, and they're going to buy it, and they're either going to like that, and they're going to find out on their own that there's something better. But right now is a great time to get into knives because we're in a renaissance for it. I think a lot of people are getting into it. A lot of people are trying to get into these things for the same reason that I got into it. They're disconnected from being connected.
okay, so
There's
they're
like
trying to have a community.
A community, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Find something cool.
What is your favorite part of the knife community right now? Like, what do you love the most about it?
You know, man, it's so tightly knit. The amount of great people I've met, like lifelong relationships, have been forged. No, also no pun intended. Within this community.
That's how much I don't know. The Forge didn't even hit me.
Oh,
didn't
funny.
even hit me.
But a lot of pop culture, starting from that, Forged in Fire, which is a really silly show. That did a lot for the knife world, you know?
Yeah.
People, I mean, not everybody thinks Damascus steel means it's the coolest thing in the world, but it could be just garbage.
I was actually going to ask you about that. I know we're getting long in the tooth here.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. Not. So I see a lot of different what appear to be types of Damascus or steel that is called Damascus steel. And I know there's like a specific way that like Damascus steel is very, very, very specific, but basically it's
actually
layered.
Not.
Really?
Nah, not anymore. It's sort of a generic term for any sort of, you were on the right track for any sort of folded steel.
So like layered steel. So you see like a very polished or like lighter color versus a dark color. Typically when you see that, that's what I understand as Damascus. So I have a few that were, I know, hand forged Damascus knives from Will Stelter. And I'm trying to get I'm trying to get some more variety from a bunch of different designers. I got one, and I'm blanking. I can't. It's a South African guy, and I'm mad that I don't remember his name.
South Africans make there's a lot of really great knives by the South African.
And I've seen the proliferation of Damascus in the fixed blade stuff, and I don't necessarily see it as much in pocket knives and folding knives. Why is that?
So when you talk about a fixed blade, you're talking about like the simplest form of the knife.
Okay.
Right. It's stick with edge on it. That's what one of my friends called it at one point. But and then you get into the folding knives. Like the kind of folding knives I'm talking about are, precision crafted instruments versus something a little more unga bunga. And there's definitely levels within it. There are some. I mean, a beautifully made fixed blade is a whole other ballgame. But
so there's most a scale of unga bunga.
Oh yeah, the unga bunga scale goes across many fields. But the idea, the reason why you see it more in fixed blades is because if you're talking about someone who makes a knife in their shop, right? They could take Damascus means you take at least two different steels of different carbon content, right? Okay. So when you sort of fold them together like Play-Doh, right? They may look uniform and stuff like that, but then when you introduce like an acid, like ferric chloride, you dip the blade into ferric chloride, it etches the steels at different rates. So that's why you get that pattern. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does.
So that's what Damascus steel is, right? The original idea behind it was that you would get certain properties of both a high carbon and a low carbon steel. Low carbon being that you have a tougher steel; it'll bend rather than break. It won't corrode as easily. but
I
you
see.
want a high carbon steel in there because you want it to be able to take a keener edge.
Right.
So that's the idea.
So it's basically just trying to grab the properties of two different types of steel and put them together.
Right. It's also a very unga bunga way of doing it. You know what I mean? Instead of is it beautiful? Is it a cool art form? Yeah. Is it really practical? Absolutely not. Right. So that's where and then you look at the other side of the spectrum. We're talking about all these steels. These are steels that are crafted almost in a lab, where they have all of these properties that are built into the knife steel.
But they're a more homogeneous mixture of steel.
Correct. So where that gets interesting now is you can have Damascus steels or stainless Damascus products, which are very, very high end, where they're taking a lot of these fancy steels and producing very specific patterns.
The pattern Damascus is like Steve Schwarzer is one. And I believe he taught.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean patterns in general, where it's like a little circles. Like if one of the most common brands that create like steel for higher end Damascus patterns for like higher end folding knives and fixed blades is a Swedish company called Damasteel.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
And if you look it up, they have a bunch of products. And they even have what's called a Damacore, which is the art of the San Mai blade, where you have two pieces of a stainless type of, say this is an edge. I'm looking at a knife, and the grind goes like this. It's like a V grind, right?
Okay.
Right. Then you have inside the middle, you have a piece of a high carbon steel, and then on either side you have like a carbon or a different Damascus or a carbon steel. And when you grind the blade, the carbon edge is exposed, but the rest of the steel is of a different ilk.
So that sounds like a different ilk.
It's like a sandwich. It's like a sandwich.
I was going to say it's like a chalupa, but same.
It is kind of a chalupa. If the top part, if it was folded and then inserted,
sure,
then it would be a chalupa.
The technical differences matter here.
Also, if you had to fry it first.
The name of the guy from South Africa, it's Henning Wilkinson. That's whose knife I bought.
Actually, I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with him.
I love that guy.
You have to send me some of his stuff. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of the guys. The knife culture in South Africa is very, very cool. Also, if you're getting into custom knives, South Africa is a good place to do business because, well, you don't have to actually go there. It's not like a blood diamond thing, but they make good knives and the prices are more reasonable because they can make it that way.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, Levon, I want people to go follow you and check this stuff out. So it's knifenutspodcast.com. Mm-hmm. It's spelled correctly. That's not some like punny nonsense in how it's spelled. knifenutspodcast.com and Knife Nuts Podcast on Instagram.
I'm on everything as Knife Nuts Podcast.
There you go. So go to the website. That's probably where you'll find all that stuff.
I'm most active on Instagram, and there was a lot to divulge in this in this broad topic. So if you have any questions about what we talk, please feel free to DM me. I will try my best to get to it as fast as possible.
Well, I want to try and collaborate more with you in the next years because I think there's a lot of good crossover.
Oh, I think huge crossover. Yeah.
And I think my audience, I've had guys ask me to do stuff on knives, like cover knives from SHOT Show, and I can't, like that's
I'll share the knife guy, gun guy meme with you. It's anytime you post, so something like me post like a knife that costs X amount, say it was like $400, right? They'll be, I could buy a gun for that. It's like, yeah, maybe that's true. You could have.
You could.
I bought this.
Yeah, but I chose not to.
Right. I mean, that's great. You can do whatever you want. Also, I feel like $400 is like 2015 Glock 19 pricing.
Yeah, that's not Glock 19s are $650 now.
Oh my god!
Stupid. I know, it's dumb. Like, I don't know why, honestly. Like, the Glocks
Sorry,
are
we
not
were wrapping up, but you were
yeah,
wrapping up.
listen, Glocks are not bad guns, but they're getting
No.
way more expensive
That
than they used
650 for a 19?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Maybe
Bruh.
6 if you're lucky. Yeah. The
Oh,
prices have changed, dude. The
I
world
was like
has changed.
I know. I was like under 4 would be great.
Yeah,
That
that
was like
would be
back in the
great.
day. Yeah.
Maybe
Anyway,
like a used LE trade-in gun
right.
you could get.
Gen 3.
Yeah. Also, speaking of good stuff for guns, go check out radiantweapons.com. Check out blackoutcoffee.com/TGC. Levon, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate your
Absolute
time,
pleasure,
man.
man. Anytime. Great to talk to
I'm
you.
glad we got to reconnect, and I'm glad that your leg is not going to fall the fuck off.
Me too, you know.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, watching, etc. See you soon.